the media is a very powerful weapon, and thankfully for organizations like yours, you actually put out real objective journalism and you let people make decisions for themselves. But the biggest media voices, the big players that everyone knows, they unify on a message, and that message is fear. And when you look at, say CNN, for example, it always has, the COVID cases and death counts, but they never talk to you about the age of the people dying, and it's, I believe, usually higher than the average lifespan of Americans. They don't talk about the people that recover. They don't talk about drugs that are very effective in treating this disease, drugs like hydroxychloroquine, which has been,
Careful.
I know, yeah, I can't say the 50-year approved drug name. So there's a lot of overwhelming density of this message of fear, and when people are afraid, they will look for reassurance, they'll look for security, and guess who steps in to fill that void? The government. And our government is unfortunately filled with a lot of people that think that way and try and push these draconian policies and try and drive more fear to get more government control, and the cycle continues.
So it's kind of an interesting dynamic going on, because on the one hand, all the polls show that people's trust in media is just declining and declining. And yet these messages do seem pretty uniform and pervasive. Where do you think this is going?
I think in the short term, it's driving people towards news organizations like yours. I think there is a bull market for up-and-coming independent media that sticks to what journalism should be about. And I think also it's pushing massive numbers of people towards social media influencers, which I would qualify myself as one. 3.5 years ago, I didn't have any followers, 0. And now I have over 3 million across all my platforms. And that's not because I take incredible selfies or post the most interesting content. It's because I, like you, am trying to present a point of view that some people are either hiding or too scared to say. And, I think it's common sense. And a lot of people agree. So people are going to look for alternative forms of media. I think Epoch Times is going to, has been capitalizing on that, will continue to. And other organizations like OAN, Newsmax, Real America's Voice, they're also going to be thriving. And it's for the better. We need a diversity of opinions.
So it does also seem, though, that Americans are getting more and more, there's less and less overlap, I would say. If everyone was watching the same channels, then at least you're sitting side by side watching the same channels. But as they get channeled into, entirely different media, social media platforms even now, where do you think that takes us as a country?
Being channeled into different social media platforms?
Yeah.
Well, there's always...
even different media that just, will not overlap, perhaps.
There's always the risk of, the echo chamber effect, where you're only presented with opinions that affirm your, predispositions on an issue. I think people on the right are actually very good at self-seeking out the other side and looking at a variety of opinions. People ask me, they say, where do you get your information? I say, I read everything. I read Fox News, I read Drudge Report, I read Breitbart, I read Epoch Times, I read Gateway Pundit, but I also read CNN, Huffington Post, MSNBC, Young Turks here and there. I want to see all sides, and then I am smart enough, like most Americans, to come up with what I think is actually happening, to figure it out. And that's why Americans, especially conservative Americans, when they see, NFL players kneeling, when they hear, states being called on certain news organizations when it should not be called that early, they know very quickly that there's a very strong bias not in their favor. They will tune out, and they will vote with their feet, and they will go towards honest organizations that they trust. So as much as there can be this echo chamber effect, where some people are caught in a loop of the same types of information all the time, most people, especially on the right, I do believe, do seek out the other side and other viewpoints.
So what's your view of our current post-2020 election situation? Well, it's not post, we're still in it.
Yeah, we are still in it. I just tweeted today, I said it's a very strange feeling to see so much evidence of fraud and to see nobody doing anything about it except talk about it. So I will say, the whole argument, there's no fraud, has kind of lost its luster, and I think people aren't focusing on that, but it's not enough fraud, or it's not legally provable in court. So that has actually been one of the most disheartening things, to see it in all branches, in all levels of our government, a lack of fortitude to enforce the law. I've said repeatedly, it's not that we don't have enough evidence of fraud. We don't have people enforcing the law. And that is, except President Trump and his supporters. So it is very, very disheartening. I would say, based on, Gallup, Rasmussen, it seems like over half the country doesn't believe Joe Biden won this election. And we are, unfortunately, if that is not rectified by January 20th, going to enter a period of calamity in our country that I don't think we've seen maybe ever. When we are being ruled by someone that wants to infringe on our freedoms so drastically under Joe Biden and his people, and then you have people knowing full well that he did not win the election, what happens then? You need consent of the governed. People have to believe in the integrity of our elections. So it's frankly quite scary, I think. And we'll see what happens. But hopefully President Trump can pull this out.
What do you think President Trump should be doing at this moment, if you're advising him?
I think between now and January 6th, he has to do everything he can to flood the zone, per se, with evidence of election fraud, which he has been doing, but he does need a victory, a Supreme Court victory, a signature audit that reverses enough votes to flip a state. He needs just something, and I believe this house of cards starts crumbling. Right now, like I said, there is a lack of fortitude, but it's a lot of fear. People don't want to be harassed by these leftist mobs. They're going after Trump's lawyers. They're going after these county level officials. People are getting death threats. That's not right. That's socialism. That's leftist intimidation and violence. So he needs a victory, and then I think there will be enough people in Congress that can help boost that, and hopefully, it's what, 40,000 votes that probably determines the entire presidency right now between three swing states, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, any combination of those. So it's very, very close. He needs one big victory before then.
A lot has come out recently about China's CCP
Yes.
specifically, infiltrating, having influence in the government, academia, corporations. Do you see that house getting cleaned out by the current politicians? What do you think is going to happen there?
It's unlikely. The Chinese Communist Party has infiltrated every single sector of our society. And we did it because we had a for sale sign outside of every single sector of our society. It's going to happen, hopefully, in a variety of different ways. I hope our Department of Justice gets serious about this. If they started all of a sudden throwing indictments and showing how serious we are about foreign infiltration, a lot of it would stop, because the Chinese Communist Party, they're a bunch of cowards, and they're also evil. And we should be unafraid to call them that. I don't plan to visit to China anytime soon. I'm sure I'm on a do not enter list, and the feeling is completely mutual. I've called for a complete and total suspension of trade with China. Every Republican should be unafraid to do the same. They launched an epidemiological Pearl Harbor against us. They send spies to sleep with our Congress people, allegedly. We've heard no different, so I'm going to say that probably happened. What they've done in the South China Sea, Belt and Road Initiative, Silk Road, cyber hacking, 1 million Muslims in concentration camps, the deindustrialization of our country, the intentional targeting of our industry. I could do a whole hour on this, but I won't. Instead, I'll say that they are our enemy. They're not an adversary. They're not like this nicely. They're an enemy, and they're more powerful than the Soviet Union ever was. It's about time we start taking them seriously.